You are listening to the Digital Parent Podcast with your host, Ced Lewis.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Digital Parent Podcast. And I'm so excited about this episode because I've been waiting for this for a long time to get my friend Sue Scheff on the podcast. And she's here to talk about her best-selling book, Shame Nation. On this episode, we talk about online shaming. We talk about parents who shame their kids online as a way to discipline them. We talk about the president and how he is contributing to shame culture. We hit every facet of shaming, including cyberbullying and things of that nature. So I really hope you enjoy this show. And we give a lot of tips and solutions on this show, even not necessarily legal advice, but we kind of show you or tell you which direction to go if you feel like you've gotten to the point where you do need that help. So I really hope you enjoy this show. Let's get right into this episode with Sue talking about her excellent book, Shame Nation. Hey, Sue, welcome to the Digital Parent Podcast. We're so happy to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Sue, this has been a long time coming. You know, I've been badgering you forever and couldn't wait for this excellent book to drop, Shame Nation. So, you know, we're really psyched about this episode to talk about, you know, this epidemic of people shaming each other online. Before we get into the book, you know, I'm just curious, you know, can you talk about your motivation for writing the book and kind of give our listeners your story, your personal story about being shamed?
Well, it started way back in 2003. In 2003, I myself was a victim of online shaming and cyberbullying, even before cyberbullying was the word. Back in 2003, I had this disgruntled client. And it wasn't even like she was a client, but she didn't like me because she semi-hired me, but didn't actually end up hiring me for services. And she went out there online and she started calling me all sorts of names. And it was one day I was sitting in my office when I got a call from a doctor. Psychologists refer clients to me as an educational consultant, parents of at-risk teens. And he said to me, you know, Sue, I tried to refer several families over to you, but are you aware of what Google is saying about you? Now, for all your listeners out there, this is back in 2003, the infancy of the internet. There's no social media. There's nothing like that out there.
Yeah, that was before Facebook and all of that stuff.
Yes, no Twitter, no Facebook. Well, at least not Facebook for adults or anything like that. I don't know. Was it in colleges back there? I don't believe so. But anyway, when I Googled myself, it was horrifying. It was Sue Scheff, you know, as a con. I exploit families. I abuse kids. I kidnap kids. It was just terrible. And the story goes a lot deeper than her just being a disgruntled client. That whole story is in my second book, which is Google Bomb, and it goes through the whole litigation. And what happened was I did have to sue her, and I was vindicated in 2006. The lawsuit went on for 2.5 years, and even though I was vindicated and I won a landmark case in Florida here, I won the $11.3 million jury verdict for internet defamation and invasion of privacy. What people need to understand is Google or the internet is unforgiving. So what goes online stays online. So it was one of the most darkest times of my life as a victim of online shame, a victim of cyber humiliation. For those 2.5 years, I was both emotionally and financially crippled. And what happens is I learned that I was at the darkest times of my life. And at 40-something years old, and this was over a decade ago, I really thought that the whole wide world was like laughing at me. I wouldn't give out my name. The humiliation was almost unbearable. I didn't want to go to a therapist. I was afraid if I went to a therapist, I would Google myself, say, oh my God, Sue Scheff, see shrink. I know it kind of a cliche rhymes, whatever. So what was happening over the next few years after I won the case, I started reading the headlines of young people like Tyler Clemente, like Amanda Todd, like Rebecca Sedgwick, young people taking their lives from now what's called cyberbullying, cyber humiliation. Because again, back in the 2003s, 2006, 7, 8, we didn't have these terms that are coined today. And I said, you know what? We need something, we need voices like my own. Because after my second book, Google Bomb, came out, which was in 2009, I was just inundated with emails from people, from adults that are victims like myself, but no one ever knew what to do with it. So how to overcome it. And in Google Bomb was really the litigation of how to defeat internet defamation and the whole intricacies of my case. But we really didn't have resources to help people. So again, between 2009 and till now, Shame Nation, there are so many resources out there. So Shame Nation is about surviving, preventing, and most of all, overcoming shame, overcoming digital humiliation, overcoming the online hate that is so prevalent today. What everyone needs to remember, this is a human disaster. It's not a natural one. I sadly to say, unlike polio or cancer, where we're working towards eradicating it, we're not going to get rid of what humans are. We're never going to be able to control every human being out there. So we need to equip ourselves with how to deal with it. And we can. I mean, I overcame it. As you saw, the foreword is written by Monica Lewinsky. She overcame, and coincidentally, when I worked with her, we both had similar stories where she stepped forward after hearing the stories of Tyler Clemente and Amanda Todd. We knew our voices needed to be heard, and we knew that sharing our stories was going to help many more. And that's what motivated this book to come forward.
And what a great time for the book, Sue, because, I think in the book, the thing I love about it is that you have so many resources that I've never seen in a book, covering these issues about, different legal agencies out there, different nonprofit groups, different advocate groups. You really give like a roadmap of where people can go if they're dealing with shaming.
Absolutely. And that's what I loved about the book, too. I wanted to make sure, like I said, we covered all three components: surviving, preventing, and overcoming. And from a decade ago, there's so many phenomenal organizations out there, whether it's Online SOS, the Cyber Civil Rights Organization, Without My Consent, the Heart Mob. It goes on and on and on of organizations that can help you today. You are not alone. When I went through this, I was all alone. There was nothing out there.
And I think the thing why this book is so important in today's age is that, the leadership, especially coming from the White House, is kind of like shaming people on a daily basis. And there's a culture that we're seeing in the U.S. now of shaming people on Twitter, Instagram, and other websites. I think the book is just great timing to deal with that type of problem.
Right. And, what we have to realize when we see the leader of our land out there, the way he's talking on Twitter, so to speak, we'll use the word talking, so to speak, or using social media to throw insults at others. I heard someone speaking on Sirius Radio the other day, and it really took me back because I've been saying this over and over again. It's difficult enough to try to explain why the president is using these insults towards other people. But what's more concerning is the way grown-ups and adults are condoning this behavior by not only liking these tweets, but forwarding them and retweeting them. And this is the part where parents really need to step up and speak out to their children and say, you know what? As the leader of our land, we may have to respect him as the president of the United States, but we do not have to agree with this digital behavior. And in our household, this is not how we behave online. I did not teach you to behave online this way. We have to be kind to each other. This is, before I gave you your smartphone or cell phone or any keypad, you treat others the way you want to be treated. I really found this conversation very enlightening because every time the president tweets something out there that's harsh, whether, she's bleeding from her face or, any just horrifying comment, and I'm not going political, but any horror of anybody tweets an ugly, mean meme or anything, and you see an adult that comments on it or forwards it, and even during the whole political campaign, when you see a parent that is forwarding it, liking it, or endorsing it, you are giving your child the green light to do the same thing. And I think that's the fine line every parent needs to stop, pause, and check in with themselves. We can't role model that behavior. We have to sit down with our kids and let them know that we disagree with this behavior and we don't do this behavior in our own home.
And I think that's an excellent point. We've covered this topic on numerous occasions on this podcast about being a good digital role model, because the problem is there are a lot of parents that love to cyberbully, and there are a lot of parents that love to shame people. And that leads into, one of the things, I want to talk about with parents, this whole phenomenon of parents shaming their kids on the internet. I mean, how many times have we seen parents try to consequence their kids for bad behavior by going to Facebook, posting a video with them holding a sign or cutting half their hair off and giving them some ugly haircut to provide, shaming to them as a way of parenting? It just kind of got out of control. And I don't know if parents really understand the impact of that behavior on their child's future digital footprint.
Right. Well, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they don't know. And I relate it back to the generation ago. And again, I work in the field of working with parents of at-risk teens, and they call me up all the time. And parents of generation ago would want to use a Scared Straight program or a boot camp to scare their child straight.
Yes.
Today now, and let me just share with you, it has zero results. All it does is build anger and resentment in the child. And that anger and resentment is targeted towards the parents. And how do I know this? Because I worked in the police office and the police departments down in South Florida when they used to implement these programs. And these kids would come out of the program. One little girl came out and punched her mother right in the face, right in front of all of us. I mean, I think adults go into it with good intentions, but not understanding that it's not going to have good results. So I'm not convinced that parents are doing this with malice. They're at their wits' end. And in today's generation, it's technology that they're turning to, but only because they don't know any better. And it's the same thing when you read the story in our book about the Denver mom who shamed her daughter online with the panties because the little girl at 13 years old was trying to attract pretending she was 19 years old and talking to older men. The mom had a fit because that mom got pregnant at 16 years old and was, hanging with older men, and she was arrested. She was just fearful that what happened to her would happen to her daughter, and she was in tears. And so we get it, but it's wrong. So I think what this goes back to is education, educating these parents that shaming is not the answer. You have to understand that guilt is, I feel bad. Shame is, I am bad. And that's what you're telling these kids, is they are bad. And that can have long-lasting impacts on these kids.
And what I see when I see that online is a couple things. Just like you're saying, it's like a low skill set. So a lot of parents engage in their behavior because they don't have the right parenting skill set to solve their present problem. And two, they look to do it to get support from their friends and their peers. They're in control when they may not be in control. But I think with those situations, we talk a lot, about being an upstander. We always talk about kids being upstanders. But I think when you see that, it's an opportunity for parents to be upstanders. So if you see a parent doing that, what you should be doing is reaching out to that parent, either online or offline, to talk about the issue and give some helpful, creative solutions to the problem, opposed to just liking the comment or sharing the shaming incident.
Well, you shouldn't share it, because sharing it is endorsing it. Every time you like something, it's equal to an endorsement. I think you should private message them and offer them some help. I mean, you're absolutely right on that. I mean, spot on that. Because a parent reaches their wit's end. I mean, Wit's End was actually one of my first books, and the parents do. They reach in today's generation, when they reach their wit's end, they turn to the internet. And what doesn't help either is the media. Because do you remember that one of the very first media shaming with the child was the father with the gun and the computer? And he went viral and he made the Today Show.
Yes.
Then you have those parents that want to become internet infamous or internet famous, either one, So we don't know what the motivation of some of these parents are. But I think at the end of the day, I don't believe that they're trying to be malicious. I think they're just trying to teach their child a lesson, but it is the wrong way to do it. And maybe it's up to us to start writing more articles about the damage that they're doing to these kids.
So I want to jump into a couple of chapters of the book that I just thought was phenomenal. And, I want to highlight chapter 6 first, because you talk about something that a lot of people don't talk about, which is making sure you watch your offline behavior. We always talk about making sure you're good online, but in chapter 6, you talk about how, if you do things offline, like get into a fight, make the wrong, gestures towards somebody, curse somebody out, just do negative things offline, how somebody can capture you on their cell phone and post it online. So maybe you're doing things offline, but people can bring that offline behavior online that can damage you.
That's right. Today you have to know that 92% of people are armed. I use the word armed with smartphones. We're not afforded the luxury of an oops moment anymore. Just this week, we look at Julie Briskman, lost her job for flipping off the president's motorcade. Right or wrong, just saying. We look at Holly Campbell, who lost her job for having a meltdown outside of a comedy club. From Adam Smith, who went through Chick-fil-A and did his little, I don't know if you remember that case, Adam Smith, when he ranted at a Chick-fil-A window. And if you read the book too, where we have the Mercedes mom, I didn't name her. In my book, I was really sensitive not to name some people. I didn't want to reshame them again.
Right.
But we called her Mercedes mom because she was driving a Mercedes trying to get her child to school, and all these bikers were coming. And this is very interesting. All these bikers were coming, bicyclers, I should say, not motorcycles, bikers, and they were slowing her up. So she flipped them the finger, another finger flipper. And of course, one biker, armed with a smartphone, took the picture, and another biker took her license plate. Now, this really turned ugly because what they did is they looked up that they had someone that had access to find out who the license plate belonged to. And they not only taunted her at work, they taunted her family members and then actually went to doxing her, like finding out where she lived, posted her address. It got ugly. And then you want to go back to even chapter 1, where we talked about plane breakup. Now, here you are sitting on a plane, having a conversation with your significant other, and you're about to, first of all, you shouldn't break up on a plane.
Right.
And then you have, and I can name, because Kelly Keegan spoke with us, Kelly Keegan had a few choices. She could have put her earbuds in, listened to some music. She could have pulled out a magazine and read a magazine, but instead she chose to, tweet the whole conversation of this plane breakup and videotape it for the whole wide world to see. Now, all of this behavior that I just named is people that are not being conscious that everything you do offline now has a distinct possibility of going viral. And I have to tell you, Cedric, the fact is, everything I do now, from flying on an airplane to checking out in a grocery line to driving down the road, I am so conscious of what I do. I'm telling you, I don't even not that I really swear a lot, like even swear in the car at somebody in front of me, you just never know when someone's going to snap a video of you. You really don't know.
You really don't. You have to be super careful. And another chapter 7, which to me, that was my favorite chapter of the book, because it really starts to talk about empathy. And you talk about the mom who had just lost, her daughter, and there was a bully, some teenage kid, I think he was like 20, 21, that was sending her hateful messages through Facebook, like, I hope your daughter is dead, and I hope you're dead too.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah, and about how she turned around and you know what? let me reach out to this young man and see what's going on with him. And when she did that, she realized how he came from an abusive, alcoholic home, dealing with a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and how the empathy really changed him. And I think people don't understand the power they have. There's always this saying that hurt people hurt people. And a lot of times when you have these bullies, these people that are shaming, they're dealing with something personally, some type of hurt, some type of pain they're in. And sometimes, we have to step back and reach out to them and have empathy to see what is causing you to act this way, because this is not necessarily normal. So you must be dealing with something mentally, physically, from a psychological standpoint that's causing this reaction or causing this behavior online.
Right. We've always said hurt people will hurt other people. And it was even, I believe it was Lady Gaga actually that spoke at Harvard that was sharing that we can't always just focus on we have to focus not only on the victim, but on the bully themselves.
Right.
And that's Carol Todd that you're talking about in this story. It was an amazing story. We went in just to interview her, about her daughter's suicide, Amanda Todd. And when she shared this story of this young man called her an alcoholic whore. And I hope you die like your daughter died. And there was something in Carol that she put out compassion for him. She just knew something in him was really suffering. And yes, you can read the whole story in chapter 7, right? I believe it was chapter 7. On how she found out all about him. He came from an abusive home. And let me just share something real quick with I'm sure you read about it. He ended up, used to go to Subway every day because of Carol. He would collect the leftover food and go to homeless shelters and feed homeless people. She put that much empathy into him, compassion for other people. Yes, she turned him around just by reaching out. She actually said to him, "Do you know who I am?" And he goes, "Yeah, your daughter died," and blah, 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 blah. And he used to actually go out online and look for people that had lost children and purposely hurt them until she healed his heart. Yeah, empathy combats cruelty every time. It's proven in studies time and time again. This is why it's so important that parents, it starts at home. Kindness starts at home. Yeah. Whether you're opening a door for somebody, whether you're just, being polite, it starts at home. Whether you're turning off your cell phone as you're talking to your children or, putting it away, it starts at home.
And I think the thing for parents, and I think for fathers in particular, is that I think we as dads have to start preaching empathy more, because there's this perception that empathy, kindness, makes, your son look soft. But it's the furthest from the truth. Empathy has a lot of power in it, and it has power to transform people. And I just think more dads, more guys, we need to start preaching this more to our kids in the household.
Oh, empathy is powerful with a man. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing a gentleman that's kind.
Now, in chapter 8, you really talk about what to do if you can't handle this online. So you've already blocked people, you've already reported people, you did the screenshots, you told school teachers, or if it's an adult, you told your boss, you told your HR department. You talk about what to do to take the next step, and you talk about how to pursue, legal avenues through either criminal court or through civil court. One of the questions I had is, for most parents or most adults, is there a reasonable way of doing this, or is there, do you have to go through like a lot of expense, hiring attorneys and, going through all these fees to, get some type of justice?
Okay, well, everyone knows lawsuits are expensive. I mean, there's no way around it. Sometimes a cease and desist letter will help you out. And cease and desist letters usually run a few $100s. And sometimes they stop the troll in the tracks. Sometimes they do not. What's nice is today, a decade later, there are a lot of organizations that'll help you out, that will give you attorney references. You can get a free consultation to determine if you even have a case. What a lot of people are not aware of, too, there are several law schools out there now offering low cost or free representation for victims of cyber harassment, such as the Tyler Clemente Institution for Cyber Law at the New York Law School, which we interviewed in the book, Ari Waldman, which represents the intellectual property there at the New York Law School. And also at the University of California, they have a division there that offers some types of consulting for parents. So there are avenues out there now for parents that there wasn't a decade ago. And the other thing is looking in your own area for different types of privacy law attorneys, harassment, PI. A lot of times it's personal injury lawyers. That's what I had hired. And I'll tell you, honestly, my lawsuit was well over $100,000. I had to second mortgage my home at the time.
Oh my goodness.
Today, I don't know how much they are. Yeah, they're very expensive. But today, I don't know how much they can be, but I always tell people, interview your lawyer, get a free consultation. At the end of the day, the emotional stress it can put you through, really balance it all out. And the majority of the time, the defendant's not collectible. So it's something that you really have to weigh out. But there are, like I said, so many organizations. There's Without My, in the book, if you read the book in chapter 8, and in chapter 10, Taking Action, there's a whole list of organizations too. That there's Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, there's Without My Consent, Online SOS, and they're all out there to give you referrals to different attorneys that will speak with you, at least to get a free consultation.
Well, one last question, Sue. I think we've given parents and adults a lot of good information on this podcast. Any tips for parents to prevent shaming, before it happens? Just give us a couple things. I know you talked about tons of things in the book, but just a couple things that kind of stick to your mind about ways they can kind of deal with this issue.
Okay. Number one, the biggest proponent that everyone out there does is overshare. So let's be mindful with our sharing. Control yourself. Remember, there's a person on the other side of this screen. I tell people all the time, 15 minutes of humor is not worth a lifetime of humiliation. Then we have quality over quantity.
Yes.
Declutter your friends list. Never assume you're among people that have your best interests. How many times did you read in my book, people got in trouble because people that they assume are their friends lifted a post or a picture, created a mean meme, or just sent it out viral. Even Justine Sacco, that famous tweet, was only because one friend took that tweet and put it out on another tweet. And Lindsay Stone was another case. And then most importantly, learn patience, everyone. You don't have to post in haste. When in doubt, simply click out. It's time to turn off. There's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of a digital detox.
That's 100% right. So, Sue, where can parents find your website, your blogs, and more importantly, where can they buy this book, Shame Nation? Shame
Nation is available in all Barnes & Noble across the country. I was thrilled they had it on the front table for the first 2 weeks, and it's still although I hear it's selling out in most of the Barnes & Noble, but it's online on Amazon. It's on Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, the Indie one. It's all over still online and in the bookstores. And it's shamenationbook.com and SueScheff.com, and then SueScheffblog.com for some of the blogs.
Well, excellent. So we really appreciate you being on the show, and we're definitely going to make sure we include all the links to the book in our show notes. And guys, I highly recommend the book. I actually bought it twice. I bought it once, a month ago when it first came out. I lost that copy. I bought a second one to prepare for this podcast. So, I have multiple copies and I really love it and I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
And I
appreciate that.
Yeah. And Sue, I really just think how you have brought a lot of solutions. Anybody can talk about these issues, but only a few people are talking about solutions. And that's what I appreciate. And I'm so happy that you're on the show today.
Oh, thank you. I thank you so much. I really appreciate you do such a great job. I want your whole audience to know I love your podcast. You do a great job.
All right. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Hey guys, I hope you really enjoyed the episode with Sue. We really went over a lot of ways to prevent online shaming, and we talked about a lot of snippets from her book. But most importantly, go get the book. When I tell you that Sue has a ton of advice and interventions to prevent online shaming and cyberbullying, I mean, she has a ton. That's why that book is selling out all over the shelves of Barnes & Noble. They don't even have it in stock. So you probably need to go to Amazon.com and get it. Once again, the name of the book is Shame Nation. And also go to Sue's website called SueScheffBlog.com, where she gives weekly tips, things you need in order to prevent this type of behavior online. And make sure you rate the Digital Parent Podcast on iTunes. Let us know what you thought about this episode with Sue. We would love to hear your feedback. Until the next episode.